guess I'm a little sleepy. You guys are working on cool stuff, man. Seriously. I mean, if I walk in and somebody's actually working on like a robot arm, how cool is that? So, all right. Well, thank y'all very much for letting me come in. So my name is Stephen White. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Qukku. Yeah, that's actually how we pronounce that name. It's amazing. So, and you'll be surprised. I actually came from a little team building event. We were friends with one of the coffee distributors here in town. But the great thing about being a startup, tech startup, is this is kind of our dress code. So there's some advantages. I don't say this is typical of most startups. My background is I'm a CPA, actually, remarkably enough. And so traditionally I was pretty dressed up normally. So I don't know how about your other speakers, how they've come in, but they probably looked a little more responsible. My wife thinks I've obviously had some sort of midlife crisis or something, but that's okay. She indulges me by buying me additional t-shirts because she's tired of seeing me have holes in the ones I have. So let me tell you a little bit about Qukku. Qukku is a video site. Our whole belief is that, okay, this is going to be, you guys are understanding this much easier than the old white dudes I normally talk to. How many of you guys watch YouTube videos? Thank you. Okay. It's amazing the conversations normally are like, people put videos online? Like, yeah, seriously, people put videos online. It's remarkable. So how many of you guys love those ads in front of videos that y'all watch? Okay, seriously, no hands. So that's awesome. Okay, so exactly, it's getting worse, right? Right? Like they're making you watch 30-second videos before the 2-minute video you really want to watch, right? Okay, we actually love that because that's really annoying and that irritates everybody. So we're trying to solve that. So the way we're solving that is we run video contests for brands to, give you guys prizes. My whole belief is, why should these brands be paying YouTube to put a commercial in front of the videos you really want to watch? Let's take some of that money, put some prizes out there, and get you guys to make videos about something that's interesting for the brands, right? So how many of you guys like Doritos? I like Doritos. Some flavors better than others. You guys are probably all familiar with Doritos Crash the Super Bowl contest. Every year they do their contest where they get people to make their Doritos Super Bowl ad. Well, we're not asking people to make ads by any stretch. We're getting people to make videos about things that they like, whether it's skateboarding or some cool computer projects they're working on, something that's relevant for the brand. Okay. So this is something I've built over the last year and a half. So I'm going to take you just a real quick snapshot of what it takes to get from conceiving an idea and actually getting to the point where you have a team and you're raising money to get investors. Okay. So I'm going to go through this kind of fast because I want to get to the point of hearing questions from you guys and being more interactive. So in the beginning, some 18, 20 months ago, this is just all I had. It was just this idea, right? And this name, this funny looking bird. And I thought, you know what, I had this theory that, like I've said, like you guys, we've already talked about, that brands want to reach you guys. People, brands, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Microsoft, Apple Computers, Nike, whatever. They want to figure out how to get your attention, okay? The problem is you guys are doing stuff like this. You guys aren't sitting in front of a TV. Now, you guys may be atypical to your friends, but the reality is more and more people are getting their entertainment online, right? They're not sitting there, or they're playing their Xbox or having fun some way, or they're outside playing basketball, or they're going out there and hanging out with their friends, chatting about stuff, right? They're just not sitting in front of the TV anymore, and it's really hard for a lot of brands. At the same time, you guys are great at making videos. You guys are great at making original, photography, different, music. The reality is your phones. You're walking around with this awesome little computer here, right? I mean, I know I'm telling you stuff you already know, but it's amazing how people don't get that. So the thing you guys really like to do is to play games, and so kind of have a little fun, some challenges, some competitions, right? So it's our belief that they have to change the way brands market. So this is the typical way the brands advertise to you guys. They come up with a message, they do a focus group, they decide that somehow you kids want to hear this message, and then they jam it down your throat. That's not real fun, right? Our belief is that it's a change in expectation. That the brands have to come up with an idea, but share that idea with you guys. Because all of you guys have interesting stories about things you come across during the day. Whether it's something cool you did with your computer, something, you know, whether you guys, I don't know, I'm not into skateboarding, but if you guys are into skateboarding and you did some really cool tricks on the skateboard, stuff like that, right? It's a changing dynamic where instead of pushing down the message, they have to share the message between between the creator of the idea and the viewer and the brand. And so, as you grow, and if you guys do pursue your own entrepreneurial endeavors as you guys get older, you're going to need to know your competition. So I won't dwell on this, but we had to obviously look at this. And then we had to also explain what the challenges are right now. And a lot of it, before the ads got worse than they are now, a lot of it was just these pop-up ads, right? We're all familiar with. We've all been trained to go, okay, click here, you know, right? and all. And so 18, 20 months ago, this is just me. I had a guy who helped me out develop the main site. I had somebody who taught me a little bit about marketing, because remember, I'm a CPA, I'm an accountant. That's scary. And I needed help. The big things at the time, because people ask me, how in the world did you come up with this idea of Qukku? And obviously I was having fun with the name, because clearly I had to be crazy. And it was about, and you guys are experiencing this daily, it was about observing the world around you, right? When you guys are thinking about, now you have to do, if you have to do homework, you have to do homework. But what fascinates you? It's things that you see in your daily life, right? It could be, hey, mom's making something that, you know, for dinner. I wonder if we tweak the recipe, how that would turn out, right? That'd be kind of fun. What if you know, I'm playing this video game. Wouldn't it be kind of cool if they added this, right? Or maybe you know, again, I'm gonna go back to skateboarding, and like I said, I would be horrible at skateboarding. But if you know, you think about people skateboarding and they add new tricks, right? They're doing all these different tricks, or they're adding different components to the skateboard, or they're saying, you know what, the skateboard's awesome like this, but what if it was a little bit longer? How would it perform? Or maybe it was a little shorter, right? Or maybe it was a little more narrow, or maybe it gave a little bit more give, right? It's just observing the world around you, finding things that are in front of you, and not accepting them as they are. That's the important thing. That's the most important thing if you take through anything in life, is you have to be able to question why isn't something different. Right? That's the most important thing. Now, keep in mind, when you start your careers, people don't want to hear always like why. Like your parents probably don't want to hear, well, why this? Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do that? That's okay. It's part of it. You kind of have to build up your credibility and your experience. But asking why is such an important part of it. So for us, it was observing the world around us, and then also building culture, right? Like I said, I'm a CPA. I had to change the way I looked at the world, but also behaved in the world. If I'm making this crazy Qukku company, I had to kind of live a little bit differently. Not inauthentic. I had to still be who I was. I just had to allow that perhaps that craziness kind of pull through, because I was going to hire a bunch of people to work for me, and so I needed to set a certain tone in what the environment we were going to work in, and if they were going to want to work for us. So this is something I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but as you guys get, and if you guys ever do look at starting your own company, or for that matter, when you guys go through college and go work for a company, you're gonna run across the idea of what a business plan is. And I don't know if you guys ever talked about the lean startup methodology. I assume you know that. Okay. So what this is called, this is what's called the lean startup canvas. Okay. There's a lot of words on here. Don't worry about that. But these boxes, right? It's basically to be able to look at any business on one page of paper, okay? And this may seem overwhelming, but it is hard, because you're basically taking a major concept and Twitterifying it, right? You have to basically use as few words as possible to fill in the answers to these underlying boxes, right? And what's important to understand is, when you're thinking of whether you're going to open a lemonade stand, make the next coolest skateboard, open a restaurant, build some really awesome robot, right? You're going to have to understand a few different things. You're going to need to understand who your customers are, right? Who's going to pay you? You're going to need to understand, if you're going to need to partner with people. You're going to need to understand what it takes to actually make your robot happen, right? Like, who's going to build it? What equipment are you going to need? How are you going to manage it? And if there's additional resources. And why, with value proposition, all that is a fancy way to say, why is mine more valuable than the other, right? Why is my skateboard, my cool new skateboard, going to be worth it to those customers I targeted over another? Or why is my robot going to be better, okay? So this is something I had to go off and do and understand. We had to understand revenues and costs and all this stuff. And so when you look at it, we had to build a platform. That was our website. We had to identify how we were going to make money, and we had to figure out the combination of who these customers were going to be and what the value they were going to get out of it and how they were going to make money from them. And so it could be a combination of looking at viewers, people who watch the videos that we make. We're not going to charge them anything to watch the videos. That'd be ridiculous. But we have to understand what they get out of it, right? Out of those viewers. We had to understand what would be an incentive to somebody to make a video, right? If we're asking them to make a video about a topic for a brand, what's the value for them? Do they get something out of it? Yeah, so what's their value, and how do we make a little bit of money off of that and still yet reward those people? And if we're going to have somebody like a brand pay us money to do this thing, what do they get out of it, and how do we make money? All on this one-page business plan, okay? Again, I know sitting in your shoes, you're looking and going, wow, this seems simple, but not. But it really isn't that bad, okay? This is, it's amazing, this is very commonly used for startups like myself, like my own company, but major corporations like Shell are using this to decide new business units and new products that they are launching. They're asking themselves the exact same question and using the exact same template. So you too, if you're gonna, like I said, if you're gonna open a lemonade stand or the next robotics company, you can use something as simple as what's called a lean canvas to help you determine who your customers are, what resources you need, etc. So this is the stuff fundamentally that I had to understand before I launched my business. From now, so that was 20 months ago, right? These were the first steps. It was just me, just a little old me, trying not to be a CPA anymore. So I decided, okay, let's move forward. So the previous graphics you saw were black, and they didn't have a lot of detail in it. So I had to figure out what the personality was. So we first off had to remind people that the name is actually pronounced Qukku. We had to decide how we were going to describe the company. And so from an investor standpoint, you can hear us describe it as my team builds. So yeah, this is the great thing of having a fun team. They literally stick this in there on occasion. So we had to identify how we describe the company, right? And we had to understand the problem. So think about that little canvas we went over there. So the problem is, the good and the bad, is that video is a very popular thing right now. Part of it is because we have these cool smartphones. Everybody's walking around with an iPad or a computer. You have access to a computer pretty easily. And that internet speeds are getting faster and faster. So companies understand that. So they're marketing with video to you guys at a higher rate. They expect to make more money that way. It's a lot of money in this business. So if you think about it, this is what we had to understand as we went further. So there's $4 billion spent in online video advertising in the US alone right now. It's growing at 40% per year. The CAGR, all that means is compounded annual growth rate. It just means it's growing at 40% per year. The $75 billion TV advertising market is trying to wedge itself online. That's why those ads on YouTube are getting more and more annoying, because they have to figure out when you're not watching TV anymore, or the little bit of TV you are, but you're skipping past the ads, they got to figure out how to get in front of you. So the problem for the marketers, though, is that video is, number one, hard to make for them. Like they don't know a way to make it entertaining for y'all, because you guys don't want to watch ads, right? And then when they make the video, they have to figure out how you're going to get in front of it and watch it. So what happens when you guys skip those what are called pre-roll ads, those 30-second ads before the 2-minute videos? You guys aren't alone. 85% of people skip those. Not only do they skip the ads, I don't know about you guys, but a lot of people, a vast majority of people, will skip the video. They're going to watch altogether, because they're like, seriously, I got to watch 30 seconds of ads before the 2-minute video. Get that? I'll go find the next cat video. Watch it. Right? So this explores what we built. I'm not going to bore you with all that, but because I've already bored you enough with what we are, but we built what's called a content destination. So our site hosts all these video contests and create all this engagement between brands and their consumers. The brand sponsored online video contest. It's about creating more authentic interaction between the brand and the customer, right? Because there's things that you clearly are passionate about. That's cool, you know. So let that shine forward, and then reward you guys. So when you guys make the next, you know, the Houston Rockets ran a video contest about why you're the best Rockets fan, and the prize is you get to hang out with Dwight and James Harden and go play a 2-on-2 with them, you and your buddy, right? First off, if you're a Rockets fan, you're gonna do everything you can to win that contest, right? How cool is that? And so let that reward shine through. Reward you guys for trying to be a part of that connection with the brand. Because obviously, if you made a video to try to win that contest, you would tell everybody in the world to go watch your video and vote for your video. So they should reward you. For the brand, so this is again who my customer is, they have to get something out of it because otherwise they're not going to pay me any money. So they want to be able to get access to these videos. They want to be able to have people think positively about them. They want to be able to track it. Unfortunately, that's the reality of it. It's just, as you guys know, Facebook, you're not just using Facebook for free. They want to know a little bit about you. We think it's a little creepy, so we don't really like to track people in detail. We have to kind of monitor you a little bit because people cheat in contests, but we don't like just sitting there going, oh, well, here's Joe's information, here's Sue's information. That's kind of I wouldn't like that personally, so we don't do that. And then because we use crowd voting, they get a big network effect, that viral effect of how videos are launched. And then we also provide the audience. We have a pretty big community of people who are making videos and watching videos, and we handle all these logistical things that we learned as we grew this business from 20 months ago. What you saw in those black slides earlier, we learned that the brands actually really appreciate if we handle fulfilling the prizes, actually sending out the prizes for them. They appreciate what's called issuing a 1099. Basically, these are tax receipts saying if you won X amount of dollars, the IRS kind of wants to know that. So somebody's got to handle that. Well, we do, right? It's kind of not much paperwork, but it's a real headache for companies like Apple or Microsoft to do that. We can do that for them. And then anytime you run a contest, there's a lot of legalities to it. So that's something we handle, okay? And then we also identify the cheaters, so don't cheat in any contests. We're watching you guys. And it's amazing, we've seen people cheat for $25 in the contest, so it's crazy. You can basically buy votes and views and all this junk. So I don't know why people do it, but people like to do that. It's kind of sad to me. Because the people that they're hosing aren't the brands who are paying out the prizes, because they're giving out the prizes anyway. They're hosing the people who actually tried hard in the contest. So that's kind of not cool. And then we help make the contest kind of fun. So again, you saw the competition slide a little bit earlier. I'm not going to super bore you on this, but we had to dig deeper and understand when you guys make your super cool robotics company or your next lemonade stand or whatever it is in between, you kind of have to know who you're competing with. So that competition never stops, right? Microsoft's always looking at who's competing. They know maybe Apple's competing with it, but they're waiting for the little company that nobody's heard of to compete with them, right? So they have to understand this, and you always have to know and dig deeper and deeper and deeper. It's always a changing environment. So we had to dig deeper into what our competition was and better articulate, describe how we're competing with them and why we're better than them. So here's a little bit about what our site looks like. If you went to our site right now, let's see, and it is not going to run. Okay, well, basically, oh, there it goes. Hey, look at that. So you would go to, well, that didn't exactly play like I expected. You go to our site. This is the beta version of our site, so this is the original version, which we're rebuilding. People get to learn more about the contest here. There's different contests going on at any one time. We like to have fun contests as well as brand contests. And then if you come to the contest site itself, and again the video's not running, you would actually learn more about the brand and who's competing in the contest. You'd see which videos are actually entered in the contest. You may even see some example videos from the brand. And then from the video contest itself, you'd actually get to see the video that played. This would show you more detail on the votes, but we don't just have like a number here. There's actually faces and names. So we want to show, like, if someone's voting in a contest, we want it to be legitimate, right? We don't want it just to be some fake account. We want to know, be proud, right? And same thing with the comments. And so we were able to manage that so that we kill off the cheaters. So the example video I showed you just a few minutes ago, or excuse me, that previous page, it was something that the classic radio station here in town, KUHA, like classic like Bach and Beethoven and all that stuff. They wanted to create a contest that would reach kids like you guys, like they didn't want you guys to think like classical music's lame. So they came up with an idea of a contest called that was air conducting. So instead of air guitar, it's like air conducting, right? And so it was actually pretty fun. You know, I thought, well, okay, this is going to be really strange. But we had people like this lady who's a personality on YouTube who calls herself the Vegan Nun. So she conducted, of course, with celery. And it ran the gamut. It was fun. People had a good time with it. Actually, the kid who won, actually, the reason why he wanted to win, he's 6 years old. The winner gets to conduct the Houston Symphony, the real Houston Symphony, right? Can you imagine that? And so he actually just did it this last weekend, which was pretty crazy. He's not even from Houston, he's from Phoenix. He flew in to do this because this kid has done, this is like his lifelong dream. He'd already done this, like he'd already had a video that had like 8 million hits from when he was 3 years old. So, and he's really talented. So that was his thing. He wanted to win the contest. So, but we had dozens of video submissions across that contest, and there was one for about what Houston means to people. They got a bunch of votes placed. And what this is all about is changing the way you guys, changing the way that brands advertise to you guys. Instead of having them put a bunch of ads in your face, you know, okay, well, here's an ad on Facebook. I'm going to some cool website. I'm reading about the Rockets on the Houston Chronicle website and having a bunch of annoying ads that I really don't want to watch anyway. They changed it. They had you guys make videos that were interesting about a topic for them and then share it. And so they had all this engagement. People chose to watch the videos because they were interesting, funny, quirky, strange, right? And for the brands, that's what it's about. They want you just to think about them and think more, and, be more a part of what that brand means. So the point of this is that as you grow your business, you actually have to have case studies. You have to actually have results. So this was us changing from this theory, this idea that I think would work, to, okay, we've done it, and here's what the results were, right? Now we have to translate all these numbers, right? All these numbers and commas and all this stuff. What does that actually mean? Well, we have to actually translate it into what's called return on investment. Because if a brand's going to give me, thousands of dollars to do this, they're going to want to know, so what am I going to get out of it, right? Not just, hey, that was cool, that was a funny video. They want to know something more, right? So you guys have to, when you build your lemonade stand or robotics company or skateboard company, you got to think about what's the benefit. You got to translate that to dollars and numbers. And the fun thing is, just because you did it once, it's not good enough. They say, okay, that's great, you did it once. Let's see if you do it again. So we have to do case studies. It's like, hey, studies, homework. No, I mean, you got to actually translate whatever the value that you provided into something. So that video is not going to play, but okay, we'll play if we have time. We'll play some funny videos later if we talk. Again, we had to provide measurement of what the value of what we do. We had to translate it into competitive products and how our information is presented, and we have to have it validated. So these are actual research reports that show what our site does compared to another. I'm not going to dwell on that too much. We have to explain how we're going to sell our product, right? So just because I have this great idea, right? Just because you made like this really awesome robot or skateboard, or have the coolest recipe for lemonade, so how are you going to sell it to everybody? How are you going to sell it like to masses and masses of people, right? Or maybe you just want to be a restaurant, which is totally cool, but you just want to sell, you want to be, like in this part of the city, you want to be like the best Vietnamese restaurant, the best Mexican restaurant, or the best fast food restaurant. How are you going to do that? How are you going to tell people about it? How are people going to know about you? You just going to put a sign out? You can have somebody walk around, you can put flyers out, you're going to get it like a guy flies with the Skyraiders in a plane and hope that people see that. I mean, what's it going to be, right? Your investors want to know that. Your customers want to know that. Your employees want to know that, right? So you kind of have to figure out what are those phases are. How is it going to actually work? What's the plan? It seems hard, and don't get me wrong, it is hard. But this is fun because this is real and it's challenging. And the great thing is, unlike school, I hate to say, there's no right answers, right? There's really like no right answers. It's trial and error. There's a startup community called Techstars that has affiliates throughout the country. It's fascinating. Their motto is do more faster. Okay, and that's what that motto really kind of has grown from is the theory around startups or companies is fail fast. Have you guys ever heard of that? Fail fast. Right? Can you imagine like Your teacher's going, okay, good job, fail faster. Like screw up more, right? Strange, right? But what you'll find as you go in your career, and education is a totally different deal, right? You need to understand the foundations, right? I joke around about trying to not be like being a reformed CPA, but what I learned about accounting and what I learned about business and a lot of those things, the studying I had to do, whether I liked it or not, all provided the foundation, all provided me the opportunity to play around with this whole Qukku thing, right? It taught me how to put together a financial model. It taught me how to think, okay? So it's important that you definitely take care of the schoolwork and definitely do everything you're doing here and what this program's about. But when you guys are building a robot arm, right? And you're trying to do something really unusual, hey, if it's either going to work or not, right? So don't be sloppy. Fail faster doesn't mean sloppy. Fail faster means if you're trying to get the arm to do something you don't expect it to do, try to do it quickly, measure it, understand why it did or didn't work, but don't sit there and dwell on it. Don't, like text your boyfriend or girlfriend and go, oh my God, my life's ending. Pity me, right? Oh, I just can't do it. Oh, I don't know what to do today. Okay, no. I mean, give yourself like 5 minutes of that, because we all kind of need that for a second or two. But then get over it, and then look at it and say, okay, I get it. This is what the arm didn't lift because I didn't connect this sensor to this sensor, or I was trying to get the arm to pick something up, but the weight ratio wasn't right? Figure it out quickly. That's the idea of fail faster. There's companies out there like, I don't know if have you guys ever heard of Flickr, the photo sharing site?
Yeah.
Okay. Reddit, you all heard of Reddit? Yeah, okay, Reddit's like a news kind of community thing. What are some of the others? There's some others out there that just don't come to mind. Those are all companies, like Flickr, like it's photo sharing, right? That was never what they intended to do originally. They were a gaming company. Their idea was like when people were playing video games, people wanted to like take pictures, screenshots like what they did in video games. That didn't work. Like they were making no money on that. But what they noticed is that people like sharing photos. And so that's interesting. Maybe there's a business there. So they failed fast, right? Instead of saying, okay, no, that picture thing, that's done. We don't, no, forget that. That's distracting to us. Let's stop doing that. No, we're gonna definitely like do this game thing. They would have spent more time and money failing. Instead, they realized quickly, they learned quickly that the error that they made, they needed to change. They needed to grow and come up with something different. So they failed fast into Flickr, the photo sharing site, right? Companies all the time experiment. Facebook experiments, Twitter experiments, Microsoft experiments. They experiment, and the key is to learn quickly, okay? Just the rest of this talks about how do we grow our user base, and then how do we make money, because that's obviously something that investors and potentially customers want to know. They want to know that you're going to be a legitimate business, so that way when they buy your skateboard, if it breaks, they want to know that you're going to still be in business to go repair it. So we had to figure out what our pricing is, how the sales pipeline. We had to understand how many people, how much money will be coming in the door, right? And what our revenue opportunities are, and have we made revenue before? Because that's always important. And then financial projections. Hey, that's where my accounting pays off. And how much money we're going to need to raise. This is our team. We actually had to hire people. So we're a mix of part-time, full-time. So Caitlin and Raina and myself are full-time. Greg, Rob, and May are part-time. So to build that though, this is something I had to pay out of pocket. I had to recruit these people in, and I'm very fortunate that they bought into the bigger vision of what Qukku hopefully will become. And they've taken salaries that are way below market, right? I kind of feel bad about it honestly, but they know what they're adults, they know what they're getting themselves into. And there's other ways we reward them through like investment in the company, ownership. So that's an important part. As you grow, you have to understand who you're going to recruit. And what's not on this list, but is to say, who else are we doing to add to the team, right? What is absent from what we want to build? Like I don't have an advertising background, so I need to, and what we do is advertising to some extent, so I need to recruit in people that don't have that skill. So if you guys are building that robot company and you're really good at building robots, but you don't know how to sell robots, right? You kind of need to figure out how to get somebody to be part of your team to sell robots. Or if you're good at sales, but you don't know how to make the robots, you got to figure out who's going to make the robots. Advisors. These are people who are friends, who are supporters, who are investors, who are helping out the company grow. Okay, they're not employees, but they're very important. So the luxury you guys have being in a program like this is you guys are making key connections with your instructors. These are people who want, let me emphasize, want to know how you're doing as you go through your life. They really want to hear from you a month from now, 6 months from now, 12 months from now, right? Whether it's, if you like coffee, great, go have coffee with them, or Coke, or whatever. Go to McDonald's, go meet them, go tell them what you're working on, right? It feels kind of strange because I don't know about you, but my parents always said, don't talk about yourself, right? Does that kind of feel strange? Don't talk about yourself. Don't be so full of yourself, right? It's not that. They care. They want to know that the time that they spent with you here is actually going someplace. And even if you go off and say, you know what, the robot thing was great, and I'm assuming I'm obviously going with the robot thing because of the robot arm when I walked in. Even if you choose to be an accountant, and God bless you if you do, you know, the point is they want to know what you became. So those advisors, these are people who I can call on and ask for help. I can tell them, hey, we're having a problem with this. Can you just talk me off the ledge? Tell me what I'm doing wrong. You know, give me some insight. You've done it before, right? They're friends. They're specialists in certain areas of knowledge that I need help in, right? So they're not getting paid. They may or may not get some sort of compensation, but the point is they're supporting you, and payments sometimes come from the fact that they know they paid it forward and that they're helping you grow up as a company or as an individual. So always surround yourself with mentors throughout your career. Never be shy. Never, ever, ever think to yourself, you know, I'm not worth it. Never think that. Now don't think that you're really, really worth it. Don't get too confident, but think to yourself, you know what, there's people who've gone before me who've learned, and I'd like to learn from them. And so I'd like to go buy them a Coke or a coffee or lunch or whatever and talk to them, or not even buy them anything, just meet with them. Because the reality is, if you grow up and you're successful, you're going to pay it forward because people behind you are going to ask for help too. So the rest of the business, you know, it's been great. We built this team, but we actually need investment to go. So we had to identify what the value of the company was, how much money we're trying to raise, what we're actually going to use the money for, who else is interested in putting money in. That's what this is about. And then investors want to know, in a business, not all businesses take outside investments. Some businesses take loans. Some businesses you holding money together with it. Let's describe as friends and family, right? You have a rich uncle, your cousin scratched the lottery, you write a lottery ticket, whatever the case is. Sometimes that's you invest in yourself, right? Maybe you invest in your own business. You just what's called bootstrapping, right? You put it all, you've funded it all, okay? Because you sold your car, or you know, or your wife has a great job, you know. In our instance, we're looking for outside investment. The great thing about outside investors is they want to know, so when we give you that money, how's that money coming back? Except they don't want just like, we gave you $1, we want that $1 back. They're like, we gave you $1, so when are we getting our $10 back, right? So they want to understand that. So that's what's called an exit strategy. So what will happen, you know, as we grow, who could potentially invest in us and get the money back to the investors, right? So we have to understand this is milestone based. In other words, milestones are just, you know, like when we hit this goal, right? These people may be interested in us, and then there'll be a next goal, and these people may be interested in us, and then this next goal. Because all of your businesses are based on, you know, if your goal is to build this robot super army, it's awesome. You built your first robot, but how are you going to build like 10 million robots for your super army, right? So there's going to be like increments along the way. Never build an evil robot super army. I feel like I need to make sure that's clear. So anyway, so concluding this little presentation, what I've taken you through basically is a mix of the original, how we presented the concept, how we talked about the concept 20 months ago, to what you just saw was essentially our investor presentation, what we talked to investors about. There's elements of that when we talk to customers. Obviously, we don't talk to customers about investments and stuff like that, but there's a number of things that customers want to know. anybody who wants to give you money about something, they're going to ask you certain questions. And it's going to feel really strange because you feel like you have to expose yourself. So the point here is, this is our conclusion. This is our perspective, is that ad is yesterday. Content, in our regard, video, is the future. Be able to express yourself over stories, about brands, about things you're passionate about as a consumer to a brand is what matters. So that's how we conclude, and that's how we that slide ends. Yeah, I've done a lot of talking. So I'm kind of interested in questions that you guys have. If I just fire hose you with information and you guys don't have a clue what I just said, that's totally cool. Raise your hand, tell me that, and I'll be happy to answer any question you have. Seriously, there is no question I won't answer. So, yes?
How did you come up with the name?
That's awesome. Okay, so that's a great question. So literally, I could tell you some really awesome story, but it wouldn't be true. So, so what I decided was I wanted a short name. God bless Twitter for this. So I needed, I wanted, you can't buy like a 4-letter name. It's just, there's dudes who own all these stupid names. It's really irritating. There's like a guy in town who owns a bunch of them, actually owns like 300,000 names. I don't know why he does, but he obviously feels really good about it. So I literally took, I wanted to come up with a name. The way I came up with it is I wanted repeating letters, and I wanted something that was memorable. So I took 4 letters, not the ones here, because this didn't work out. I took 4 letters, and I don't remember exactly what it was. It might have been like E-T-T-E. I at one point wanted to come up with something that had 2 O's in it, because I had this goofy theory that Yahoo, Facebook, Google, they all had 2 O's in it. So obviously that was not exactly a true theory. Anyway, so I wanted the repeating letters, and so literally I took that 4-letter combination, if it was E-T-T-E, I can't remember, and then put a consonant, put a letter in front of it. Couldn't find it. So I'm like, okay, well I gotta come up with something else. So UKKU, I literally went AUKKU.com, BAUKKU.com. See, isn't this really kind of exciting? So needless to say, I own a lot of versions that have UKKU in it, so if you guys are interested. So it just so happened the QUKKU is available. And so I thought, well, that's kind of cool. That seems interesting. And then the next thing I did was search and see if it's used any place on the internet. Great. Google kind of comes in handy. And nobody was. And then the other thing I checked, or the next thing I checked, was to make sure it wasn't offensive in any other language. You guys ever heard the story of like the Chevrolet Nova?
Yeah, because it was like something in Spanish.
Yeah, it was Nova in Spanish for our Spanish speakers. Nova.
Oh, it doesn't work, right?
No go, right?
Yeah, no go.
Yeah, they kind of didn't know that. So they didn't understand why they're selling like Chevy Novas in Latin American countries, why they still sell. Well, there you go. So I didn't want to make sure Qukku didn't mean something offensive. And then the other thing I did is yeah, it's okay. It's still morning, don't worry about it. No, and then the other thing we did is there's actually sites out there, and I can't remember what the name of it is anymore. You can put the name, a word in on the site and have people from different languages pronounce it and see if it pronounces the same way. Because obviously it's kind of strange spelling to convince people this is Qukku, right? But like whether it's Japanese, or somebody with a Japanese dialect, Chinese, Russian, American, Latin American, doesn't make a difference. People would pronounce Qukku. So then we got lucky because it meant crazy, murder, all that stuff. Anyway, yeah, what's up?
Yeah, how do you first, like, what did you do to employ your team?
That's a good question. You know, so I had a previous startup about 8 to 10 years ago. It was around digital textbooks, and my position on starting your business is I'm not big in the idea of being greedy and like owning all the equity. So that time I recruited in 2 people to be co-founders. So I gave each a third. Each of us had a third of the company. The problem was they weren't as motivated as I was. So I worked my tail off, and they're great guys. I'm still friends with them, but they didn't feel the same passion that I did, and so the company didn't go anywhere. So this time, what I did is I thought, okay, I don't mind doing that, but I wanted to really kind of think the bigger picture. You know, what kind of leverage I can have to make sure that people, if I share with them equity or hire them, that they'll care about it as much as I do, right? Which, if it's your baby, your idea, no one's ever going to care as much as you do. That's the unfortunate thing. It's like having your own children, like your parents. Your parents care for you a whole bunch, more than your aunts and uncles possibly could, more than your grandparents could possibly care for you. Your parents care for you a lot, okay? So what I did is I went ahead and paid out of my own pocket a team to build the basic site. And part of it is I wanted to validate to me that this was actually going to work. And then once I did that, then I was able to recruit in people. So I was able to convince people, okay, here's this Qukku idea. Here's like the site, and here's how it works, and this is what it is. And people could say, okay, I get it, I believe, I want to be a part of it, and gave me more leverage to hire them in. And then frankly, I had to pay out of my own pocket. I still do. Which kind of, my wife reminds me all the time, it's a hobby, not a real business until you actually make money yourself. But that's part of it, is that investors don't want to put money into your business unless you're willing to put money out. So if you think about restarting your own business, just keep in mind, first off, set aside some money so that if it's a rainy day and your business doesn't go anywhere, you're not going to end up homeless. Seriously. And if you're married, and this goes for guys or girls, you got to make sure your spouse is in on it, right? Because you're taking them through the whole experience regardless. So I'm very supportive that my wife is cool with it and tolerant. I'm kind of amazed that she is at times. But fortunately, she indulges me. And my kids like the fact that they call it Qukku, so they think it's fun. They're 5 and 3, what do I say? So that's a key part, is making sure you set aside money, because then you're going to need to invest in your team. And hiring people is hard, because there's a lot of people who would love to be a part of whatever idea you have, but they have bills to pay, right? They maybe have kids, or a wife who doesn't want to, or a husband who doesn't want to do that, right? So that's kind of the challenge. So you have to really be out and involved and meet a lot of people to participate. Caitlin, who was our first hire, I met her through a mission program. My wife and I have been doing mission work in Guatemala for the last 10 years off and on. Caitlin and her dad had gone to the mission program the previous year. She graduated from A&M, and with a communications degree. I frankly have a little luck that the economy wasn't that great. She couldn't find a job. She's really, really super talented and smart. And so I offered her a job. And so she was able to come to work for us, and it was something she was passionate about. And the great thing about it is, like, if you hire one person, hiring the first person is the hardest part. Hiring the second person gets a little easier, because they okay, well, you're kind of crazy, but that person seems to like you and get along with you, so maybe not so bad. So they'll it's like that, right? It's like having friends. If you having a couple of friends, sometimes leads to more friends. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I go kind of all over the place with answering questions. All right, come on, fire some. You guys have some good ones too. Come on, or you can ask more if you want. Okay. It's up to you guys.
How do you like save up for? I mean, when you started when you started Qukku, how do you save up for? How do you save up to start it up?
That's a good question again. So number one, I'm really fortunate that I strategically planned 22 years ago and started dating this girl in high school who was really, really smart and got a really great job and has a great career. So number one, marry well. Because she actually, in all seriousness, so my wife and I started dating our senior year in high school, and she's not from here. She was born in Nairobi, Kenya, and moved over here when she was young, like 6 or 7. They had to leave everything behind, so they were pretty, it was pretty tough. Like her parents had challenging coming here to the country and working. And so the advantage is that she really never wanted to be in that position. So she worked her tail off in school. She was much more responsible than me, God bless. So she put herself through college and graduated and got this awesome job. And part of it also was because she never wanted to be in that position financially. She was very disciplined as a couple, as a family, that we would save our money. Now, thank God, because again, she was much more responsible than me. I might be an accountant, but I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't grow up great. I grew up middle class, but I was probably a little bit more free with my money. So that right there, so I'm kind of being half funny, half serious, is that we started saving very, very young. And that allowed us to pay off our house. So it's great when you don't have debt, right? It gives us some flexibility with our kids. And she still has a great job, right? Now, outside of that, I think it's always important to start saving regardless. So that way you have choices. Because true or not, money gives you flexibility, right? So if you want to start your business and you have an idea, and let me tell you, if you have an idea for a business right now, pursue it, look at it, explore it. But if you have an idea right now, I will tell you with virtual certainty that you will have another idea 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 10, 15 years from now. You will turn your brain on to the idea that that there are things around you in the world around you where you can make something happen, right? Whether it's something that's a service to make people's their lives easier, or if it's making a product, or whatever. So don't worry, don't feel like, oh man, I missed out if I didn't go create this first thing because I don't have the money to do it. But it's important. Save now. Put aside $5 a week. Put aside $1 a week. It doesn't make a difference. Get yourself in the habit, and now put you in the position so you can pay for it. Just because I'm dressed like a bum, as my wife would point out, I'm almost 40, so I have some advantage of having some gray hair. It's kind of hidden, I suppose, but that also plays into it, right? So that's kind of, and so that's given me a little bit of flexibility to invest in the company. Yeah.
What job did you
She's an executive at an energy company, so she works in IT. So the funny thing is right there, she went to UT, so I still married her even though she went to that school and I went to Dana. Guess it is a good choice. She actually was getting her double major in English and elementary education. So she was going to be a second grade teacher, which would have been awesome. That would have been a great career for her. But she decided to try something different and got this job in IT and absolutely hated coding, like writing computer programs. It was not her experience. I mean, she was crying every night. And I felt for her, but she was really great at other things. And so she grew up into this, unbelievable professional. She's got this great job that's lots of responsibility. A lot of people work for her, but it took time. So the reason why I offer that up is our paths are not always obvious. It's hard work. The fact is she wasn't interested. She'll tell you. It's really funny because she works in IT and she has a very important computer job. The other day we were talking about something with Microsoft and Apple, and she's like, "So why?" It was the new Microsoft Surface little tablets. The Microsoft conference was here, and so they were selling for $100. And she's like, "Well, why didn't you just get that through the Apple Store?" I'm like, Microsoft product from the Apple Store? Wait, hold on. Yeah, that's why we can't do that. That's just like her. It's nothing bad about her. She's really, really smart. It's just she doesn't obsess about computers, right? Ironically, that skill that she learned by going to be a second grade teacher, becoming an elementary education major in college, actually pays off a lot in her job, because sometimes working with people in real life as professionals, it's like teaching second graders. I'm just being honest with you. It's just people act like children at times. And so being able to manage that actually is a really handy skill. So she can't write you a computer program. She's not going to do anything like that for you. But she's really, really smart in how she communicates, how she manages people, and she's made a successful career as a result. So never feel pigeonholed. That's my point.
How was your college experience like? As you went through college, what did you do? What classes did you take, or any electives or extracurricular?
Okay, that's good. Also good. I was accounting. I went to college planning to be an accounting major, which is, I joke around about it, but accounting is really cool. It's really helpful. It teaches a lot of foundational knowledge about a business. I even took accounting in high school and still wanted to be an accounting major in college. Electives, I couldn't tell you honestly which ones I took, but I can tell you what I regret not taking now is I don't think I appreciated the liberal arts classes. So I don't know if you guys know what that means, but it's humanities, philosophy, anthropology, sociology, English. I wish I had took more of those. I really regret that now, honestly, because I think those are really, I think that my perception is that those classes teach you how to think, and those are very important. The other thing is I was involved in a number of different activities outside of school, so in a lot of leadership roles. You'll find when you go to college that there are a lot of clubs and activities to be a part of. Don't show up and what grade are you guys in? Senior year. Okay. So you guys are getting think about college and all this stuff. So first off, save money now for college. College has gotten a lot more expensive than I went through, and you're going to want to eat. So ramen noodles are great, but 4 or 5 years of that probably get a little tiring. But when you show up to college your freshman year, you're going to be overloaded. It's going to be overwhelming. You're going to be away from home, most likely. You're going to be the expectations of school is different. You're going to have professors who aren't going to sit there and hold you accountable every day. So it's going to be, you're going to be required to make sure you make yourself successful. But you'll find out there's a lot of activities to be involved in. So probably my recommendation would be to go learn about what like clubs and events and activities. Like I went to A&M, the fraternity sorority thing's not big up there. But there's a lot of other like things involved with your dorm that you stay in or whatever. Be involved in those. But your first semester, take care of school. Seriously. There'll be plenty of time to have fun. Don't worry about that. And it's kind of like saving money. If you can get the foundation of school out of the way, it gives you a lot more choices to have fun later. The worst thing is you have fun up front, and then you're like posed trying to study for your tests and everything later. So my point is, get involved. Observe what activities there are outside of school, and then you'll quickly find if you get involved that there'll be leadership opportunities. And I think leadership in college, whatever role, whatever club you're part of, whether it's your soccer club or your accounting club or whatever else in between, being a leader in those is good practice for when you're later in life, because you'll have to be responsible for getting your fellow classmates to do stuff. And I don't know about you guys. If you guys have done group projects before, right? Does it drive you crazy to try to get your friends into groups to get to us? Okay. Guess what? That doesn't end. You think to yourself, hey, you know what? When I go work, it'll be easier, and people will work for me, and I'll tell them what to do, and they'll just do it. No. It'll make you more angry because you're like, those people are getting paid, they're not doing anything. So it's good practice, okay? And people and companies want to see what you're doing, and they're interested, right? So when I went, just for background, in accounting, for the state of Texas, if you want to be a licensed CPA, you have to have 150 credit hours. So you have to have essentially a master's. So I have a master's degree, but all that meant is I took more accounting. I think it's important more than anything else, take communications classes. Definitely take whatever, if you're going to be an engineer, accountant, scientist, a lawyer, whatever you do those classes well, but take additional communications classes. Learn how to write really well, learn how to present, learn how to speak, learn all these things. You may be great at it now, but there's always room for improvement. I'm always finding that I can do better, okay? Career-wise, when I started working, I worked for one of the major accounting firms. A lot of the clients I worked on were technology companies. A lot of them were disasters, which was a lot of fun, because you learn a lot around a disaster. There's nothing like being thrown into the fire. So you guys were probably barely alive when I was doing this, but when I started my career in Houston, there was it was before the dot-com bubble, but there was a lot of new companies being bubbled up. And so I got to see a lot for companies that were going public. In other words, they were becoming major companies with outside investors, and that was a really great experience. And that gave me a lot of business foundational knowledge. The reason why this came about, obviously, it doesn't sound like anything related to what I've done in my career or in college, right? The principal value of why I came up with Qukku is I observed that I hated ads, and I thought there's got to be a better answer. And the reason why I came up to it is I don't know if you guys ever listen to sports radio, but there was a new sports radio station that launched about 5 years ago in town, 1560 The Game. And the morning team that was there had left one of the other radio stations. And the funny thing about the radio business is that until you've had some history, you have no market demographics. They don't know how many people listen to your radio station, and et cetera, et cetera. So that it's really hard to sell ad space. So they were having to fill time so the guys, the radio station could honestly just use the bathroom. So they would make joke commercials. Some of them were real commercials, for real companies, but a lot of times they're just fun space. And I found myself listening to these joke commercials that were about real companies, right? I'm like, why can't anybody else do that? That's a lot more entertaining to me. So that's literally where I made this strange, bizarre leap from accountant to this. The bridge, if anything, is the fact that when I was starting out my career and I worked for those disaster companies, I also worked for a lot of startups, and I worked on a lot of dot-coms that were going public. So I got to see this little baby company go from baby to giant company all of a sudden overnight, and it was very fascinating, and I got some exposure there. So that's probably about the closest bridge from there to here. Man, my answers just keep getting longer, don't they? So hopefully that answered your question. Okay. Am I killing you guys?
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for inviting me. Seriously, if you guys ever want to email me, ask me a question, don't hesitate. Or connect with me over LinkedIn or find us on our Qukku.